everyone. Yeah. And I'm Saurabh Mishra. I'm part of NASSCOM SME charter, which looks after, strategic initiatives for our SME members. And today we are pleased to have this session on go-to-market strategy exclusively for our small to medium enterprises who always strive to get new businesses and look to explore new avenues for their growth. And we all understand that though the macroeconomic factors are very dynamic and uncertain today, but there exist a lot of opportunities for us to unleash and seize those opportunities. Unless until the company gets the the go-to-market or sales strategy right, it is very difficult for them to scale up to the next level. So with that in objective, we at NASSCOM always feel that why not take the help of the peer or get the knowledge from our peer to learn something and execute, which is doable for the members and get the things right for next orbit of growth. So without delaying further, I would like to request Mr. Kumar Rajagopalan, who is going to be the host of the session today. And Kumar Rajagopalan is the Vice President of DICES, managing their operations in India, South Asia, and Middle East. He is a certified chartered accountant with more than 25 years of industry experience in the tech space. So I'm pleased to welcome Mr. Kumar to this session and request him to take over from here on and start the proceedings. Yeah, over to you, Mr. Kumar.
Thank you. Thanks, Saurabh. Thanks again, Nitesh, for joining. And just to kind of give a brief about Nitesh, there was a presentation in Delhi, SME Conclave. It's a go-to-market strategy, especially for the SME companies. And with the background of Infosys mindset, I know it's it's very, very difficult to put a big genie into a small lamp. But what came out of it is Nitesh gave an excellent presentation. So it was not just another presentation. It transformed, in fact, my views. I can easily say Nitesh is one of the greatest influencers for me in terms of the go-to-market. Last 1 month, I've been going through what has been discussed. It's also in YouTube. A fantastic session handled by him. And NASSCOM asked me whether I could host this session. Without any doubt, I wanted to do that one because that gives me opportunity to meet Nitesh again. And it is not just the Delhi event. We want to expand it beyond, and this should reach many other people because that's the insight of that particular session. With that, to introduce Nitesh is the Vice President from Infosys, the Chief Strategist, especially the banking domain and life science domain. Also, he has been a major contributors in CII, CSO organization, Chief Strategy Organization, and IIT. So with a lot of backgrounds and a lot of insight, I have a few questions which have been come through from various members. I will ask those questions, and we'll then take any further questions based on the time availability from this session itself. So over to you, Nitesh.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for having me. I hope you're able to see the presentation as well, Kumar.
Yes.
Perfect. So yeah, thanks. Extremely extreme thanks for such kind words. And of course, I am thrilled and stoked to invite in to talk to this group. And again, as Kumar mentioned, this is in some sense, our thoughts, as Infosys, what we've experienced. We're very cognizant of the fact that, of course, large organizations and small and medium enterprises are different. But yes, there are elements, there are similarities. And what we thought we will lay out is just elements of our sales transformation journey, which we've experienced, and any leaf out of that you all can benefit from is something that we would be thrilled to offer. From a session title perspective, of course, we just, I personally have, headed function sales before I moved in my latest role. And therefore, I intentionally called the science augment to the art. So sales, as most people know, there is an element of art, of course, that goes in there. What I will talk today is the science augment to that art that we've experienced. With that, let's move on. So again, this is in some sense the success that we as an organization enjoyed, and this success in some sense happened on the back of the sales transformation journey we took. And that success came in two key metrics, right? One was, as an organization, we saw large deals really go a big way in terms of defining what we as an organization were doing so well, right? And we in this period of FY19 to FY22 actually closed 39 billion plus worth of large deals. And that again gave us extreme confidence in the fact that we were doing the right thing. Now, what really happened was, it's not just the wins, but the fact that we were beating almost the who's who in the technology world, right? And that really was something that gave us great confidence in what we were doing. There is also another metric that we track as an organization on the number of 100 million plus clients, and that in some sense has doubled in this period, right? Now, these three logos that you see there are some of these transformational deals that we signed. So net year, it was not something that happened in one particular aspect. There were consistent elements that stood out for us as an organization, which is why we think that we did some things right along the way in that process, right? Now, what did we do? There are three aspects of it. What we call the explore, extract, and expand, or the three E's. The first one, in some sense, is the new accounts, right? Now, irrespective of whether we are a large organization or a small organization or a mid-sized organization, I think all of us endeavor to expand the pool of clients that we work with, right? And the common questions, of course, that we have is that, how do I do that, right? And whichever textbook on management you take, we'll always talk about the fact that there has to be a certain segmentation, there has to be a certain focus, right? So the one thing that we really did is we went behind why we really need to expand the scope of what we want to do, right? And so, that in some sense became a key reasoning behind why we wanted to expand the penetration. More importantly, there were emerging trends that we were seeing, and we really wanted to latch on to the trends. As an example, we started as an organization this entire strategy of focusing on digital, and we saw that there were digital first companies that were emerging. So while there were the traditional companies, there were a lot of high-tech companies, think Amazon, which actually is a retailer technically, but Amazon is not a Walmart. Amazon is not a Tesco of sort, right? It is a digital first organization, right? So we saw there was an emerging trend. And so in terms of the why, we continue to evolve what we as an organization needed to pursue in terms of new accounts, right? How, of course, we did it. We, of course, wanted to ensure that, we were just not being a me too. We didn't want to crowd ourselves and go everywhere where competition went. So we were very specific about it. We were very picky about it. We defined our niche space. There were markets that we were going to play and play well. There were markets where we were not strong, and so we decided to therefore leave them out. So there was a very, very clear how focus that we had. Now, the single largest change, I think, as an organization that we really drove was this construct of the NN and the EN, right? It's, again, I just want to delve a little deeper into this because it's extremely important. See, as the IT organization space, right? You would have all heard that we've always prided ourselves in repeat business. Now, repeat business meant that, the existing clients that you had last year, how much of your this year's business comes from them, right? Now, while that can be good, from a growth perspective, it tells you that the customers trust you and therefore giving you more business. It also tells you that you're not doing that great a job in terms of acquiring new customers, right? And so what we have as two concepts, which is the NN and the EN, are metrics. And, we're a very data-oriented organization. So we measured our new account penetration or the explore strategy specifically on how we performed on the net new, which is customers that we acquire in the current year, in the current financial year, and what revenue they give to us, and similarly the existing new, which means the new customers that we acquired in the previous year, and how much revenue additionally we are getting. So that gives you an element, a measure of how you are being able to continue to acquire new clients and mine them, right? So that was the first part of what we call the explore strategy. The extract strategy is again large deals, right? So, there are large deals, there is transformation happening in the world around us. Now, how therefore do we get the right share of that, of that strategy is the point, right? And so therefore, as part of that, again, cloud was a big change that we were seeing in our industry. Post-COVID, cost reduction was a theme. The captives, the global competency centers that organization was setting up were themes. Now, these were resulting in major transformational opportunities that the large organizations were spending on, right? So what really was important is we were there where the clients wanted to spend. We did land some of those deals. And what we realized as part of that is once you win the trust and once you become the preferred supplier, you can expand beyond that, right? And so we created a very successful large deal center of excellence. It's headed by an EVP, in our organization. And that is really how we drove that strategy. Again, the metric that we just single-handedly focused on was what was the TCV of these large deals that we were winning. And we defined large deals in a certain way. Very clearly, we went very, very methodically around how we did that. The last part of our strategy, as we were doing this, was the expand strategy or the account expansion strategy. Again, the focus there was not just, keep acquiring new customers, in which case, the churn can be high, but revenue should keep growing. Keep winning large deals, but it was also about expansion of services and existing clients. Now there, the big difference there was it's not just any growth that comes in, right? It has to be sustainable for the future. And so we started building an account pyramid. And again, I'm cognizant that we're talking to SMEs here. So the account pyramid will be very different for your set of companies. You may have only 10 clients, but the question is, how do you look at the pyramid, right? What is your pyramid like, right? So if 80% of the concentration is from one client, very clearly you're skewed in terms of your pyramid, right? So we therefore define our pyramid in terms of the revenue-based tiers that we have. And like a classical solid pyramid, there should be more accounts at the bottom and it should taper to the top, right? Now, what is the right size of your pyramid is something which again is very topical to your business, to the work that you do, whether you're SaaS, whether you're services, whether you're a small company, a mid-sized company, or so on. But what the pyramid, ideal pyramid should be is important. The other element is what do you do to different elements of the pyramid, right? So in our context, for example, I have two parts of my pyramid. There is an account which is 100 million plus. There is an account which is a $10 to $20 million account in the pyramid. Now the question is the intervention that you require in each of those two cases is very different. A 100 million plus account is an account which is already spending a lot of money with Infosys. And they're not going to be happy just by Infosys saying, hey, you know what, we're one of the best IT services players. We are rated here in the leadership quadrant of Gartner or whatever. There, they want to see skin in the game. They want to see how we are invested in the future of the client. They want us to forego short-term revenue opportunities, keeping in mind the long-term vision of the client, right? So they want us to invest for the future. Vis-a-vis, a $10 to $20 million account is not really asking us that question. The question that account is asking us, you've done a fantastic job, a fantastic project for us in cloud. You've done a fantastic project for us in, let's say, validation services. But hey, Infosys has 30 different service lines. Why do I not see the best of Infosys come to me? Why do I not see all solutions that you have to offer to me, right? So again, the reason the pyramid is important is because one, pyramid helps you sustain if you have the right pyramid. More importantly, different parts of the pyramid will require different strategies for growth, right? And again, we very, very methodically have gone about defining those tiers, defining the interventions, and that is the expand portion of the account expansion strategy, right? Now, while we were doing this, there were two elements which were enabling this entire thing. We were nurturing the best-in-class sales force. So for example, we invested in an entire program as an organization at Stanford. And again, Stanford is just because we have that scale today, right? You could do it in any other business school. You could do it in any other course, any other way. But the fact of the matter is that the people that you have, the sales teams that you have, need to know that you care for them, right? And investing in their future is the other element that we focused on, right? It's not just that. You also have to enable the ecosystem. So we have a group called the Sales Effectiveness, which I was leading. And then 2019 onwards, we have another leader now called Srividya who leads it. And what she focuses on is the ecosystem that enables the sales team, right? You have ever-growing services. So therefore, how do you train them? How do you train the sales team on them? How do you continue to invest in tools? How do you continue to enhance the processes to make them efficient enough so that this organization is being able to deliver the best that they have to offer, right? So net, this in some sense is what we call the 3 E's of our GTM strategy. I will just take a few seconds for it to sink in before I move to the next one. Okay. Now, this really is, again, I'm just giving you a little more feel for 2 of the elements, which is the new logo program and the account expansion. On the new logo program, there are 3 parts, right? Like I said, the first one is the power of focus. And again, where to sell is extremely important, right? The success that you have will depend on the customers that you go after based on what you have to offer, right? If you're a very small company, yes, you may have a large client, which you are able to acquire, but the entire hunger that large account will have, you will struggle to meet it as a small company. So identifying that sweet spot of customers that you can really, please and service in a way that meets all their demands in the space in which you operate is extremely important, right? So defining the target account, target pool is extremely important. What do you sell to them to get in there is again important, right? So today, for example, if Infosys goes into a large client, that large client already has a lot of our peers, our competitors working for them. So the question is that, me being a me bringing a me too service is not going to cut it, right? What I really need to tell them is where we differentiate. So those services where I really differentiate vis-a-vis competition is what I should position as my starting offering. Once I get in there, of course, I can do the entire 9 yard and also offer services which is a me too as well, which is fine, right? So again, it's extremely important to focus on that. And the other element, of course, is we have a dedicated team which focuses on that entirely on commission. I think it's always a good idea, especially irrespective of the size of the firm, unless you're too small and you can't afford a dedicated individual or a dedicated team. But I really feel that, new logo acquisition is a very different game from account expansion or large deals. And therefore, you really need that kind of selling which goes in, which is focused on being able to continue to hammer, or hit the doors and ask for the door to be open. Okay. The second part is once you create the pipeline, how do you convert and scale it? And again, today, I think in the digital world, the good part is there is enough available for us to digitally surround the client with the messaging, right? So it's not just an element of the presentation that I make today. I can ensure that on LinkedIn, you see the message that this session is happening. You can see my profile. That gives you a certain aspect. You can see the posts that I put in. That gives you a certain aspect. So it's not just this session and Kumar's introduction, which makes you excited about this session, right? But there is so much of surround sound that we do around it, right? And so therefore, again, in the conversion, it's an element of how do you delight them about wanting to work with you is what is important, right? And again, relatively inexpensive tools available today allow us to do that very effectively, right? So again, think about that in a significant way. And the final one is collaboration is important, right? And the one thing we call, for example, in our firm is that selling is a team sport, not an individual sport, right? And that is the case today, right? So irrespective of small, big, medium, whatever you may be, ensure, especially for new logos, you go all in as an organization to make it happen, right? There is no question of that one individual is responsible for it and that individual alone will make it happen. Figure out what the best of the organization has to offer and make that happen for that collaboration to make the win happen, right? So again, these are the elements that we bring together in what we call the new logo program. I'll just again pause if you guys just want to go through what I have on the slide. Okay, I'll move to account expansion. And the reason I'm being a little faster than what I was in Delhi is because, we'll get to, there are some very specific questions individuals came in with, and we would love to get to that. That's what Kumar and I wanted to do. On account expansion, again, I covered a lot of this, but the fact of the matter is it's extremely important to define your pyramid, right? And I keep repeating your pyramid because it indeed is your pyramid. There is no ideal pyramid. I don't want to claim that because Infosys pyramid looks in a certain way, that pyramid is ideal. No, that's not the case, right? It depends very contextual to the industry that you work in, to the business model that you work for, to the competitors that you have and so on, and the targets that you chase. But yes, define the pyramid, that's important, right? Any business can only sustain if it has a self-sustaining pyramid, right? So define the pyramid. Dedicated ownership, again, is always helpful, right? Especially for your larger accounts, like I said, right? If the accounts are large, they are strategic enough for them not to be dependent on one individual alone, right? Even if you're the CEO and you personally oversee that relationship, you can't be the one individual available for anything and everything in the account, right? So always build an N in a box model, especially for your most strategic customers, right? What that N is, again, is contextual. In our case, for example, at the very least, we want a client partner, we want a delivery partner, we want a CTO, which is a chief technology officer for the client. But then again, depending upon the nature of the client and what we have to offer, that N in a box can vary, okay? Again, I did speak about investment. Depending upon the size of the strategic customer, investments are necessary, okay? If it is a really large customer, then again, don't shortchange yourself by saying that, okay, I will not provide them this additional 5 days of work that they're asking. A lot of these small investments, sometimes, especially for strategic investors, strategic, clients, get noticed, right? And so ensure that you have a very clear plan, though, of what investment are you going to make for what tier of the pyramid, okay? From a performance standpoint, so while that was a structure and the enable, how do I set it up for success? There is, of course, performance metrics, right? So again, executive connect, always a good idea. Your top tiers, irrespective of what function they have in the firm, it's always good to have an executive connect mapped one-on-one to the top clients. Again, if the organization is large, you can have one executive mapping onto 5 or 10, but good idea to have that. Quarterly business reviews, a formalizing of that is always a good idea because that shows how methodical you are. Remember, this session is a science behind the art, so ensure that some such basic governance works in a planned, structured way, okay? Innovation days, again, important, right? So have metrics which track what I do for my strategic customers, right? Account-based marketing, like I said, is important. Organizations are large, right? Irrespective of your size, the client organization could be large, and they themselves are seeing this churn, new set of people coming in. And so therefore, the new set of people need to continue to learn what you as a vendor, what you as a partner provide. So account-based marketing becomes extremely important. Strategic customers want you to be strategic, right? So ensure that proactive pitches. So one of the big questions we had is, large deals, right? Large deals, clients know what they want to do. Is it really helpful if we go in there and keep telling them or throwing ideas at them? The answer is yes. Even if the ideas get declined because that's not relevant to them, you get seen as a thinker, right? And the next time they have something strategic to do, they'll come to you because you are seen as a thinker. And so therefore, now they know, they have the confidence that if a problem is given to them, that thinker will think and come back with a solution. Shy away from proactive pitches, even if that proactive pitch hasn't landed successfully. At least the fact that you pitched, will stick. Okay. Expert reviews, again, these days, there are platforms like the GLG. Look them up. They're an expert network. So people who are retired want to give back to society. So GLG provides a relatively inexpensive way of coming back and having these experts come back and be your advisors in these situations. Okay, now let's move to the softer aspects. There are 2 aspects before we move to Q&A, and I'll try and wrap the last part up in the next 5 minutes. The people part, right? So there are 2 aspects of people. There is a hard and a soft aspect of people. The hard part is the archetype of salespeople that I want to hire, right? So in our world, for example, in the Infosys world, the absolute prerequisites is the hunter. Like I said, we do have to have hunters who are going after new logos. But on the client services side, we have to have the account managers or the client partners, and we have a dedicated practice sales organization, because our selling is is very involved selling. And so therefore technology specialists are very important. So we have what we call the practice sales team, who are specialists on selling, let's say, cloud, validation services, data, experience, and so on. But those are the archetypes that we have, right? Maybe the archetype of people that you need are different. Maybe you need solution architects as dedicated members of the sales organization. Maybe you need marketing people, because that's what really needs to happen in your context, right? So defining the archetype, the set of roles that your sales organization requires is important. Defining the ideal sales team construct, again, is important, right? Now, the one thing that I love talking about is, in today's world, we always talk about Gen Zs and so on, baby bloomers, so what, should you have experienced people, young people, and so on? I think, again, a lot of this is very contextual, but again, what is important is that people are buying from people. Remember this, right? So irrespective of, what the organization is, it's very important for you to have salespeople who are able to connect with the buyer, right? That connection, I can't, put a rule to it, right? In terms of how that connection can happen, but put thought into what that connection is. It's not always necessary that somebody who has been successful selling into the ID services space in the past will be successful tomorrow. So therefore, continuing to evolve that thought process behind, what is that ideal sales team construct is important. Okay. And KPIs, again, are extremely important. Salespeople are the most expensive resource in any firm. So it's always important to ensure. And, it's not, individuals are not wrong. It's the ecosystem which sometimes, fails them, right? And so therefore, if they are expensive resources, for you to cut your losses, for you to know that things are not working out is important, and do that fast, right? Better for you, better for the individual. And so therefore, again, having a set of KPIs which give both the individual and the organization a clear sense of what's going on is important. The softer aspects, again, think entire life cycle, right? Never be short term and think about, let me just throw this money and retain this employee. Think the entire experience, right? Think hiring, think retention, think when exit. Even when an employee is exiting the firm, we tend to, take it personally that this person is probably insulting me by leaving. It's a very small world, trust me, right? When I say that, my own experiences tell me that it's a short world. I rejoined Infosys. You never know, where you will have to go back, who you will again meet. So even then in that exit process, people are people, right? So be fair to them, be nice to them. Rewards, it's about timing in a lot of ways, right? And sometimes rewards are not about money. Rewards are about the individuals, right? Sometimes just a thank you, just a call, just before some extremely important event, a loss in the family, an extremely happy event. Sometimes just, acknowledging those things can be far more important than giving a monetary reward, right? So again, another softer aspect that we learned. And the last part is colors. Again, look it up for those who are interested. There is a beautiful philosophy called colors. So, the colors philosophy classifies us into 4 types: red for extremely task-focused people, yellow for people-oriented people, mostly HR folks, let's say. The blue people who are strategic focused, long-term focused, and green who are very process focused. Okay. Now, every individual has a basic instinct on where this fit within, and there could be a mix of these 2 colors. So again, you have to have a diversity. Your buyers, your clients are not going to be of one color, right? You need all types of colors in your sales team, right? So ensure that you study that and, have the right balance within your team as well. And then the last part, of course, is, systems and process. And again, very important, right? That there is a balance that you strike, right? And as I like to say, this balance is very contextual to the organization that you are a part of, right? So if I talk CRM or any other process, there are organizations which see it as a system of record. There are other organizations which see it as a system of intelligence. Don't do it because a Microsoft says or a Salesforce says that it has to be a system of intelligence. If the leadership doesn't believe that it is a system of intelligence, that process will fail, right? So do what the leadership believes is important for the firm. Yes, a Salesforce and a Microsoft will tell you because there are reasons behind it. If leadership then internalizes it and believes it, then yes, treat it as a system of intelligence. But otherwise, you will frustrate your people if you don't do that. Sales operations, again, are you a controller? Are you an enabler, right? Control, there is a process and 2 hoots to you. That process is how it will stay. Vis-a-vis, oh, that process was defined 2 years back. I probably need to change it because it is not working for our employees. That is the enablement side of it, right? So where do you, move the slider is again left up to you. right? Culture of empowerment, is it rigid? Is it agile, right? Yes, the world is moving very fast. Yes, today the macro is really poor. So I will not be able to make the payment in 30 days. I will probably need 90 days. And therefore the salespeople is saying that, yes, but I will give you, by the way, I will give you 2% additional if you do that for me. So are we rigid in how we run our firms, or are we willing to explore an element of empowerment is another question. And the final element, for example, is all of the KPIs, etc., is to actually try and manage growth, right? But again, are you just an implementer of the KPI, or are you an entrepreneur where you allow your teams to therefore want to push the KPIs in a way that works for them, right? Again, there is no right or wrong about any of this. The only submission that I would have is it's a journey, right? Ensure that you keep an open mind, ensure that you go in with a growth mindset, and ensure that some of these things are not cast in stone and they sometimes need to change, right? And the moment you do that, you will be able to, get to the sweet spot that works for you as an organization, right? So, well, that, is the super crunched, super quick, Delhi session delivery. It's about the 3 E's. It's about creating your alpha team, and it's about treating the tools and systems as accelerators. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the screen share and put myself back on just the video for me to pass it back to Kumar. Kumar, sorry, 4 minutes over, but let's get the questions in.
No, thank you. So again, every time you keep listening to it, it's a fantastic information which we get it. But anyways, there are a few questions which came earlier, so I collected those questions and created 2 buckets. The questions which are related to the best practices, and the second one, it's related to the go-to-market strategy, very specific questions, right? So let me get through the best practices first. Though some of them are very generic in nature, to the extent which, of course, it's all contextual, so you can probably elaborate further. The question is related to the leads and the conversion, right? Post-conversion. So for first 6 months, how do we engage a lead? How do we engage post-conversion to a client? Is there any specific best practice which is available?
Yes, no. So the one thing, of course, is that, what we see is that, first of all, ensuring, and again, there is some industry standard, and the industry standard is a BANTI, which is the budget, the authority, the need, the timing, for a lead. So it's always important for you to do your own qualification, do your own validation for the BANTI, right? Because if, let's say, some of these elements are not there, then you can be assured that the lead is going to fail, right? So if they don't have the budget, then, you can break your head with them. But if they don't have the budget, then, you are going to struggle. So after you have qualified, then you have to learn that there is a process that the firm has, right? And, trust them with the process once you've established that they are a genuine lead, and then trust them with it and provide them the information when they need it, right? If they say that, for example, we've been through situations where they have to go to, and they have to therefore get the boards approved to get in a large deal, right? Now, in that process, I'll be stupid to keep, harassing, the executives there, that did you happen? I mean, we all know how board meetings happen. We all know that there are reschedules. We all know that they are busy people. We all know that, it's not going to happen overnight, right? So the question is that, in that 6-month process, once you've qualified the lead, once you've provided them the information, then just be available on the periphery to provide them what additional they need, right? And yes, trust them, keep asking them questions, no doubt about this, but don't put them in a spot, don't harass them to make it happen, right? Because if you've done your qualification, it will come at some point in time, right? Unless the macro changes. So again, I think once you've taken it at that stage, leave it to them, just know the process and help them in the process. Keep asking them, is there anything else that I can provide to you at this stage to help you? While you do that, you can be smart about it. So for example, what we do, one of the large deals, of course, we probably, learned some, we have now an extremely cool marketing team, right? There was a large deal that was going on, and we started surrounding the building where the executives who were taking the decision with Infosys hoardings, right? So we were indirectly being pushy, right? By getting them to see the Infosys brand. But again, I think contextual to the deal. But once you've done that, leave them and be there to help them take that decision, and then it will happen.
You almost kind of touched the second question which I was about to ask. So being real enter. So putting the hoarding surrounded the client. So one of the questions which came is like, in case of a multiple competition and for the same client, same pursuit. So is there any best practice to kind of follow? Of course, putting the hoarding around is one of the things, but like there are many other things which you guys would have done.
Yes. No, I think, see, our experience in our industry is the fact that, especially in multi-competitor situation, the initial part of the process tends to be very objective and for the right reasons, right? The process will be managed by the procurement department. They will have a bunch of advisors. So, if you were in that position, even you would have to do that. If you have 20 companies and you have to shortlist, I mean, the same thing we do for candidates, right? You want them to be from a certain college. You want them to have a certain degree. You want them to have a certain years of experience. Similarly, even they'll do the same, right? So at that stage, your only job is to qualify into the opportunity. Ensure that you check mark or tick mark all the right boxes, right? Ensure that you qualify. Ensure if you're not meeting the revenue threshold, you partner with somebody who's meeting the threshold. If you don't have something which is required, figure out a way or create a way of making that happen, because first part of it is qualify, right? Once you have qualified, then you can start working your magic. And magic happens in two ways. I think the initial part of the magic happens through solution, right? No matter, what you are, if you're not meeting the business need of the customer, there is no point in even thinking that you can win the deal in a multi-competitor scenario, right? So once you've qualified, you've left out some part of the competition. The second part of it is about the solution. That part then is extremely important for you to think through the solution. After that, the last part, then when you are down to the final 2, final 3, etc., that is where you really have to work the stakeholders, right? At that stage, it's no longer about, because they have satisfied that those 2 or 3 partners that they are left with have the necessary scale, have the solution, have the pricing mechanism, etc. Then it's about intimacy. Then it's about, yes, I want to now know who I can be with, who will be my best friend for the next, 5 years. That is the space of intimacy, right? So I think, again, depending upon the phase of the pursuit, you have to deploy different strategies, because, again, understand that the buyer has a process. And the moment you do that, you will be able to know how you can better, succeed in that process.
Fantastic. So, in your presentation, you also touched, I think, the similar points. You said 3 E's, and there is a hidden 2 P's also, which you touched: explore, expand, and extract. And the two P's, people and process, which is internally within the organization, is very, very important. Of course, I added one more P on top of it. There is a purpose which is required to pursue a deal, which you put it nicely into that your presentation. Before even you start, like whether you wanted to really go for it, be a leader in the market, or what is the pyramid which looks like for you. So you touched it. But question is, like all this, for a SME, there is an investment, because like they have to build the team to go for the pursuit. So how to maximize the value of the investment which they are making? Is there any blue book available for them, or is there anything which they need to kind of look into before expanding the investment?
Yeah, no, I think, see, the one thing, for example, I call myself the agile strategist, right, on my LinkedIn title. And I feel even in a large organization, it is not something that you will get right the first time. I think the first element of it is definitely attempting to try multiple things, right? So our chairman, Nandan, believes in what we call a sentient organization, right? And he says that we have to be sentient. We have to change depending upon the dynamics of the market, depending upon the dynamics of the client. And the same thing we also did. For example, I run the Hunter program, or the new logo acquisition program. It's not that, we got the Hunter model right on day one. We thought we wanted to change the way we manage the commission model. We tweaked it for the market where, we have commissions as the norm, which is the US. Once it worked for us, we then expanded it into Europe. Then we expanded it into APAC, right? So I think that, again, for this investment, again, and I totally appreciate that sales is the most expensive resource. So therefore, even if it's one individual, get that right. The only thing, of course, is that process, you cannot establish on the back of one individual, right? Because it is an individual, right? You will only know, about process, about KPIs when you have a slightly larger organization, more than 5, you get to know how that works, right? because until then you can tailor make it for that individual. But I feel that, there is no harm in starting small, attempting to explore, be open to change, keep, fiddling with it till you get it right, and then slowly start expanding, right? So that, I think even for large organizations, that is exactly how it works, right?
Okay, great. And you also touched the process side of it. And of course, like kind of in your presentation, you said the automation of the current processes, which is very important. Of course, you touched it like it should not be a control, it should be an accelerator. Can you just elaborate like kind of what kind of how much of information should go to the sales team and how much they process it, and how do we enable them so that like they understand whether they're making it right or not?
I'll give you a very simple example of control versus accelerator, right? See, we for example defined a commission model in our firm, which basically says that we can work with a multiple, right? But when you put in expensive hunters into it on a commission model, our intent is the first time you open the logo, that is when you earn a commission. When you then go into its subsidiary, etc., you don't earn the commission, right? Now, in one such instance, we actually had opened one of the subsidiaries of that firm, and not the primary, the main headquartered, the home country. Okay. Now, what happened is that, from our company perspective, the revenue that we were getting from that subsidiary in that small country was very, very small. Ideally speaking, when we opened the home country, commission should not have been paid, right? So that was a classical situation in which the process was challenging us, saying that there is no way that this is going to happen. But now what happens as a result of that? Your hunters say that, what the hell are you talking about, right? I mean, you've opened a very small instance. I'm opening a multi-million deal, right? And you're telling me that, you will not pay me commission, right? Now, control was there for a certain reason, right? And so we therefore went back to fundamentals. We sought the exception, got our CFO and the CHRO, in loop, reasoned with them and got the exception. But then again, we did it without the hunter having to struggle with it, right? Because we felt that is the right behavior that we need to encourage. But what we did is that, we pay commission, starting with the first dollar of revenue. In that instance, we said, okay, you open the home country, you will have to get a minimum of certain $1 million revenue for your commission to kick in, but we will give you commission, right? That's what we mean by, drive the sense of entrepreneurship. Process existed for a certain control, but you will have to apply exception. So even that exception has to be run by a process, like a process in a classical objective firm, but be open to that.
Great. So expanding further, is like kind of the go-to-market strategy which you are talking about, and you kind of touched mostly on the generic services company, but a lot of questions which came about on the SaaS companies, especially is like kind of they are looking at it. How do they pitch the go-to-market? I would rather reframe the question. So it's a B2B is a segment which you touched most. The SaaS normally looks at the B2B and the B2C. Rather, I have the solution. I'm going to sell my solution and whether you are taking it. So is that a right approach to go for a SaaS company, or what's the good GTM stance there?
Yeah. See, I think, again, I mean, to be very honest, I come from a services firm. We have a product called Finacle, and I have been involved in several conversations about how Finacle has this belief that our services teams don't know how to sell product, right? And there are very, very valid reasons behind it, because the inherent setup of a SaaS firm is around the roadmap, is around what they have to offer and why they do what they do and so on. The inherent element of a services firm is to provide what the client wants. Okay. Now, I don't think that it's necessary that you need to do, for a SaaS firm, you need to do everything the client asks you to do. So if that is the case, no. But then again, if you realize that more and more clients are asking you to do changes, then you have a fundamental problem with the core product itself that you've created. So I think, again, the way I would suggest you look at that is, you can be inflexible. It's like, I say that I'm right, but the world keeps rejecting me, right? So in which case I have to reflect that there is a problem with me, right? If I get rejected in 20 interviews and I still believe, no, I am the best person available, then there is a problem that I have. However, yes, if there are 3 rejections happening, maybe there is going to be a 4th acceptance, right? So again, I don't know, what the right number is before you realize that there is a problem with you. But yeah, I mean, there is no harm. That is how the SaaS world operates. There are enough firms which put their foot down and say, no, this is what I have to offer. As long as you have the conviction and a reason why, I'm sure, you can make it happen.
Okay, great. So just in case, like, we are looking at the SaaS, we're looking at the large services companies, but there is an element. Generally, the smaller companies firstly look at it as a staffing as a solution, go into the
Right.
client and try to expand beyond the
Yes.
staffing. So
Yes.
is it a right strategy to get into the client, or just go as a solution and say that, like, this is a solution and staffing may be one of the solutions for you, kind of solution? How do you?
Yeah.
Kind
No,
of.
I don't. It'll be very high-handed of me to say that entering through staffing is not a right strategy. Right? It's not necessarily true. Maybe, right? And there are always times, and we went through the Great Resignation when staffing was a major value that you could have provided because companies were struggling with talent, right? And there is no harm, I would say, at that juncture, if that is really what the client needs and that's what you have to offer, right? So I don't think there is shame. There is a challenge in that being your entry strategy. However, realize that your ability to be able to negotiate is going to be challenged when that is a commoditized area, right? So in today's world, when all companies are sitting with large benches and you're no longer in that supply constrained environment, staffing, you will not be able to dictate the rate at which you get. You will not be able to dictate that I will provide 5 and you have to pick 1. The client will have the final say in that, right? So I think that will be limited in that sense. Your ability to negotiate, your ability to get a good rate card, etc., will be limited, right? Which can be better if you go in with a service or a value. But again, I don't think that there is a shame. I mean, if that's your strategy, if there is a compelling reason, and if let's say your supply chain is so well oiled that staffing is working beautifully for you, by all means, go in with that and then expand if that's what is working for you.
Okay, great. And the present context, the digital world has given a lot more opportunity. You also talked about GLG and many other sites. So you have lots of opportunity to kind of explore yourself. Did the G2M changed in terms of strategy from what it was previously compared to now? And how soon we need to keep reinventing ourselves with a new G2M strategy? You said agile, which means that, like, very quickly. But for SME, it's very difficult to change the strategy very quickly because they also have the investment constraints. So what's your advice on it?
Yes. No, I think, see, quite honestly, change is inevitable, right? It is happening all the time, right? I mean, even as a large organization, to be very honest, I feel that the entry criteria sometimes just diminishes with technology, right? I mean, just as an example, there is a good friend of mine who is starting off, and he's not just identifying the trigger on when to enter an account, but he's also pre-drafting the email using generative AI technologies to actually give the sales guy the email draft. And by the way, the email is contextualized after having studied the social media behavior of the recipient, right? Now, does it really matter if I'm Infosys or I'm a small client? But anybody who has access to the tool is going to absolutely make a great impression in front of a client, right? So I feel that change is inevitable, that there is no question. I don't think I can put a timeline on when the next change is coming, etc. But I also feel that at the same time, if you're open and if you're hungry and if you're operating with that growth mindset, there will always be these tools which are around. So continue, even if you're
I think there is a small Sarah, I think we lost.
Yeah, I think it was here.
We should give a couple of minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've been trying to ask the questions from what's been listed here, guys, and I'm trying to kind of add it with the questions which came through the email. So I'm trying to kind of merge both the questions as much as I could. And if I missed anybody's, please ping here. So I'll take it forward.
Yeah, Nitesh is back. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry
Yeah.
for that. I
Yeah, no problem.
not complete that last answer.
Last couple of minutes, we missed you, Nitesh.
Okay. I passionately concluded it, but no, my only point is that I think change, of course, is happening at a very, very rapid pace. And even if you're doing well, I think just being cognizant of new things coming up around you will just keep telling you what things are happening, right? So even if, for example, I think that I'm doing well, but I'm always looking to learn about new tools out there, because I never know when the next change, which is going to impact the way we do things, is happening, right? So just keep exploring that, and again, because of the cloud world, a lot of these tools are seed based, right? So the best part about that is you can try it out for a month, give it up if it doesn't work, and you don't need to buy it for all. You don't need to buy enterprise licenses, right? So in some sense, it's, I think, cheaper than it has been in the past.
Quick this thing, because you are an expert in this field, how interesting the current dynamics is in terms of the G2M strategy. So because like you would have noticed over 10 years, a lot changed. How interesting the line right now vis-a-vis 10 years back?
No, I mean, quite honestly, today, I feel the GTM world has so much more that is possible, which we don't realize, right? So I just feel it is very scary. It is very, very scary in terms of what you actually are exposing yourself in terms of even your digital footprint, and so therefore what sellers can do if they learn the entire ecosystem out there. So I mean, everything that you see where cards keep following you everywhere you go on the online domain, sellers can keep doing much more of that if they get to know it, right? So I think it has dramatically changed. The personalization is just insane. The level of intelligence they have on each one of us is insane. So it just requires a smart cookie out there to be able to exploit it, to get to us.
Absolutely. In fact, every posting is like kind of measured. So somewhere down the lane, 4 years later, also it's like coming back and saying you posted 4 years back. So it has to be. Yeah. One of the questions, the interesting question which has come. So typically from a SME, I believe. So whenever they approach a client, the question is like they say we have internal competency, we have other suppliers, we don't have outsource, IPR is a concern, all those. So I think probably I would probably put it this way: these are anyway every company would face that one, but more related to SME, I'm asking because is that because there is a doubt in the client that like they are not getting the enough of material to kind of give or provide the opportunity to the SME or the large companies like Infosys? Do you guys have the strategy to go, or it just falls into your hands automatically without all these questions?
Yeah. No, I think see, sometimes it's also an element of the organization. It's an element of the people who are also trying to give business out, right? I think unfortunately in large organizations, there are sometimes restrictions that control groups will provide, that you have to work with suppliers above a certain size. There are certain financial criteria that you want companies of a certain size only to be your vendors, and so on and so forth. But I think on the other hand, people on the business side, what I've seen is for groups which are doing it at scale, in most cases, IT departments, tend to have those restrictions. Whereas if you go to business, for business, it's about agility. It's about, I really don't care whether you're a small firm or a large firm. Can you help me, beat my competitors in the market today? I really don't care, how big a firm you are, right? Look at, for example, JP Morgan Chase. They are the largest bank in the world. They could have gone with, any core banking product from the largest of companies, but they actually picked a startup, right? So in today's world, quite honestly, it requires conviction in a buyer that, it is about the solution, not necessarily the company that they come from, which sometimes matters. So I think, there is this beautiful, I follow this person, Daniel Abraham, on LinkedIn, right? And he puts out some wonderful posts. And one of them today said that, a bottle of water costs $1 in the supermarket. It costs $3 in the hotel. It costs whatever, wherever you're buying it from. And in case you feel you're not being valued, then you are not the problem. The bottle of water is not the problem. Where it is being sold is the problem, right? So sometimes, it's the buyer who unfortunately is stuck in that control mechanism, and so therefore you probably just have to change, the buyer or who you're selling to for even an SME to be allowed to sell to them.
Fantastic. In fact, I noticed in Las Vegas, a bottle of water is costlier than a beer. So it's how it works out. So
Yes.
couple of questions. So we have 2 minutes. One is about the new logo which you're talking about. Is it a new geography which we need to pursue for a SME? Going to a new logo and a new geography is always a trouble because they have to expand their the competency. So what's your advice?
Yeah, see, again, I mean, I think, again, even for, let's say, large companies like Infosys, it has always been English-speaking countries which have been easier to sell into. Even within that, for example, if I look at US and UK, the sheer size of the US economy has been easier, right? But then what US comes with is an element of it becomes more competitive than others, right? So I think, it is not that easy, obviously, to move into a new geography. There will be so many more challenges that you will have to encounter. But then again, I mean, if at all your solution and the buyers are open, and you're not going to get into language barriers, you're not going to get into regulatory barriers, you're not going to get into those kind of challenges which you don't find in your typical geographies, then why not, right? At the end of the day, we want the path of least resistance. You want to sell, you want to succeed. And so if that's happening in a new geography, why not, right? But yeah, it comes with its own set of challenges. So it's always, a tricky call on, I mean, even today, for example, I don't want to claim that, we sell in every part of the world. There are parts of the world where we don't even have hunters. They don't even have a target list. Even as Infosys, there are enough geographies, enough countries, but I don't even attempt to go there, right? So, but there are calls that we have to take. I mean, big company or small company, those calls we have to take.
We have many more questions, but we are end up. So last question, which is kind of, if at all, is there a thumb rule? What should be my percentage of revenue as far as the marketing budget goes?
Marketing budget as a percentage of revenue. Well, again, depends on services or SaaS. But I do feel that there is an upward pressure. I quite honestly, I'm not too close to knowing what even Infosys marketing budget is. I'll be very honest. But of course, we spend much more than we used to 4 years back. Today, we sponsor Roland Garros, we sponsor Australian Open. We've definitely increased the exposure that we have to marketing because, while we see, of course, brands and legends being created out of good marketing, even in our technology world, marketing is important, right? All said and done, marketing is important. The brand has to stick before they buy. So I do feel that it has to be higher. I'm sorry, but I don't know enough to be able to say what it should be as a percentage of revenue.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nitesh. In fact, there are many more questions. Probably we may have to have one more session. This 1 hour is not enough, so we may have to have one more hour. But thanks again. Thanks for all the participants putting through the questions. I apologize if anybody's question I missed out here. So we are 1 minute more than our scheduled time. Over to you, Saurabh.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nitesh and Kumar. Personally, I have one quick question to you, Nitesh. Many a times we come across a situation, in the SMEs, there is always a dilemma. Should I hire a sales leader first and then expand my sales team? Or should I, geo-specific sales team, business development manager, and then bring a sales leader who can manage them? So how do you see this, from your perspective? What would be the right strategy? Or any thoughts on that? Maybe that could be the parting answer from your side.
When I was a junior, I would have said that hire the sales team first and then get a leader because leaders are useless. Today, I'm a manager, so I'll say get a manager first and the sales team later. No, but again, jokes apart, I think, see, at the end of the day, the reason why we bring sales leaders in is because they will help us identify the right sales team where we need it and the right control mechanism. I think have a sales leader who's willing to in some sense also be on the road themselves, right, as a start, because that means that you don't necessarily do one or the other. But start there, because they are the ones who will define the narrative of the other sales team that we need to hire, would be my view.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nitesh, and thank you everyone who could join us. Just for everyone's reference, we have recorded this session and we'll be putting it on our YouTube channel, which is NASSCOM SME Connect, in next couple of days, and you can easily refer to this conversation in the future itself. And with that, we would like to take the leave and wish everyone a fantastic working week for next rest of the week. Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks Nitesh, thanks Kumar.
Thank you
for
so
joining
much.
us here.
Wonderful. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.